What's going on, everybody? Thanks for taking a couple minutes to check out my channel. Today is the 20th of August, and I'm just doing a little bit of pre-season trap prep. Today I'm just going to be dyeing a few traps. I probably have 3 or 4 dozen traps in here, some chain stakes and some cable restraint supports in there. I just use an old wood fire and an old 55-gallon drum cutoff. I don't have any dye in there yet. It's all rusty looking. Imagine that. I put rusty traps in there, but I'll get this thing up to a boil. I'll scoop some of the water out, mix the dye up right in there, and then I'll pour the dye back into the pot. I got all my traps wired off, but just in small packets, like 4 to 6 traps or whatever, just little packages of them so I can pull them out without trying to pull everything out at once. And I actually number them so I can pull them out in reverse order of what I put them in there. So I get this thing up to a boil. One thing I'm not afraid to do, and I know I might get some disagreement on this, once that water starts simmering, it's up to about its boiling point, which is 212. You cannot get this water over 212 degrees. It doesn't matter how hard you boil that. The only thing you're gonna do is make it evaporate quicker. Even way down here, right next to the flames of the fire, you're not gonna get that over 212 degrees. So I don't fear getting this thing to a rolling boil. If it starts boiling, good. I really don't care. Doesn't bother me, but if it bothers you, so be it. I mean, to each their own on that. So I'm gonna be getting that out, or scooping some of that water out, diluting my dye. Then once it calms down and there's no smoke there, I'll pull my traps out. I got a little drying rack set up here with nails. I've used this for about 50 years, it seems like. Actually only 5 or 6. And then I'll let them dry out here overnight, and then that'll be it. Then tomorrow I'll be starting to wax them up. My wife's new puppy slash dog stole my stirring stick. He's over there chewing on it. Must taste good, I don't know. He's a ball of energy. Then there's Karma. She's a ball of lovable fur. Yeah. Like I said, I got some of the warm water. I'm using 2 bags. This is all I've ever used. This logwood dye, just typical stuff. Like I said, I got about 30 or 40 traps in there. Like 1 bag does 2 to 3 dozen smaller traps. So I got 2 bags of that in there. I'm gonna take that up there and dump that in to that once it starts boiling. Okay, so we got her going in a good boil. Again, this doesn't faze me that it's boiling hard. I'll let this go for about an hour. It's already been going for about 15 minutes, so about 45 more minutes. Then we'll get them over there and hose them off. All right, so it's the next day. I'm actually melting my new wax. Unfortunately, I completely underestimated how much wax this pot would hold. Put 13 pounds of wax in here. As long as I can get a trap submerged in there. I mean, when it's real nice and full, I can do like 3 or 4 traps at once. As long as it'll submerge, I'll still be able to do about 2 at a time. I mean, I don't have a ton to do. The sun's baking these dry now. I left them out overnight. First time I ever did this, trying to boil them one day. These Sleepy Creeks, the brand new ones, they got another little coat of rust on them overnight already. They didn't take a whole lot of dye. I'm still just dipping them in the wax and seeing how they go. Got about 35, 36 traps to dip in there. I'll dip my stakes too for some odd reason. Got a couple drags, some chain. And what else I got? This is my cable restraint. I'm not going to dip that in the wax, just turned it black just to protect it a little bit. So once I get my wax all melted, I'll show you dipping one in there. Okay, so I'm still able to get at least 3 traps at a time in here, which is pretty cool. I mean, but if I was doing a pile of traps, I'd probably get about another 5 to 10 pounds of wax and add to here. What you want to do is you get your traps into here. You got to watch out not to get to the smoking point of the wax. But you got to put your traps in and let them get up to the temperature of the wax. What you don't want to do, I'll dip this chain in here and just pull it up quickly. And it's all like real heavily coated with wax. You want to get the trap up to the temperature of the wax. And there's still some wax melting in there. And then when you pull it out, the trap's gonna be nice and hot. It'll have a really thin coat of wax on it. Just gives a good protection to them. Okay, so these are up to the temperature of the wax for sure. Now when you pull these up, they should just look nice and shiny, and just like they're wet with water. they come out and they start drying, and you can see whiteness appear quickly, they're not hot enough. So I'm going to pull these out. I'm going to give them a quick shake. Oh, one word of caution, this is not the safest way to do this with an open flame. When you shake your traps off, I'm going to pull it straight up, let it drip off, and then I'm going to take it away and shake it. Once they dry though, if you've never done this before, they're going to have little build-up spots on them where the wax naturally slowly dries and build up a little bit. That's not a big deal. Just check by your dogs and where or night latches or whatever you got going on to set the trap. But that's unavoidable almost. Another thing I also got, I have little pieces of metal between the jaws. Even though they're open jaw or offset jaws, I still like to put a piece of metal in there to get as much of the trap covered in wax as possible. So I'm gonna pull this trap up. Has a stake on it too, nice and wet looking. And I'm gonna let it drip. So it's about done. Pull it over. Shake it off, that one's done. My wife's new dog is very curious. He will not be on the trap line. I would catch him about every 5 minutes. A couple more tips. One tip, when you're putting your traps into here in the hot wax, make sure they're bone dry. If you got water on them, it's going to cause like splattering. And put a wet trap in there and you'll see what I mean. I got my traps, they've been out in the sun, they're nice and dry. And just put them in nice and slowly. Have like a little wire hook or something. I use this to pull them out and to put them in nice and slowly. Okay, so I'm gonna finish all these up and then I'll show you the finished product and a couple other things that I got going on. Okay, so my few dozen traps, they're all dyed and waxed. The rest of my traps either didn't see the dirt at all last year, or they were in the dirt and they had nothing going on with them. I don't retreat traps every year if they don't need it. There's a lot of ways to treat traps, dipping them and putting them in. Some people do floor wax. I just like dyeing and waxing them. I like the way they look at the end even. I don't know, it's just something I enjoy doing. Get a nice clean finish on them. Nice and thin coat of wax. There's like one of the little build-up spots here. If you don't have a nice thin coat on there, you probably didn't have your traps hot enough if you ever try this. For the most part, they all turned out really good though. Nice and thin coat of wax. But you can't stop some of those little bubbles from building up. It just happens. I said I even whacked my stakes up. It helps actually some. Something else that actually worked out was numbering all these things as I put them in the pot and took them out in reverse order. Didn't know if it would help, but it did actually. They come out nice and easy. One other thing I'm working on is drying out grass clippings. I didn't do that last year when I tried to make the pipe dream sets and bedding the traps like Zagger does with just a screen on top. I just thought that I could easily find stuff to throw on top to blend them in, but it's going to be much easier this way, I'm sure. But there's always chunks of sticks and rocks and stuff that I was gathering up, and I actually think I missed a few animals because the traps they were all clogged up with the stuff I put on top. Now I'm just going to have some nice fine grass clippings to put on top. And my next thing I'm going to probably work on is I'm going to just try to make some homemade lure out of the beaver castor that I have ground up. And I'm going to just use some basic ingredients like some vanilla extract, maybe a little bit of skunk essence, and maybe even a little bit of liquid smoke or something. I don't know, I'm not going to invest a ton of money into it. The most expensive thing I got for that is the sheep's wool or lanolin oil, I think it is. Made out of sheep, I don't know. But yeah, that's about it. So trapping season's coming soon. I'm getting excited and ready to go. Hope all you are too. Thanks again for tuning in. Hope you all have a blessed day and stay safe.